Hello everybody, welcome to the Boxing Science Podcast, another Q&A session where I'm going to be answering your questions that you've sent in from YouTube regarding a range of different subjects in boxing, strength and conditioning, nutrition, sports science and more. This episode I'm going to be answering questions around recovery methods, sports massage, programming, amateur boxing and much more. If you're not a subscriber to the YouTube channel yet, please hit that subscribe button so it can help grow the size of the channel so it can bring you even bigger and better content. So let's take a look at this week's questions. So we're going to start off with, I think, potentially one of the best questions that we've received on these Q&A sessions. What do you believe have been the three most important innovations in terms of boxing training methods in the last 30 years? So I can't quite comment on 30 years, but thinking about like the 10 to 12 years that I've been working in boxing now, we've seen a lot of change. So when we first started Boxing Science, we saw it as an opportunity, as being a niche area, because there wasn't anything that's on the market. And actually now there's a range of different sports science and strength and conditioning services that boxers and boxing coaches can access. More or less every boxer now is partaking in some sort of sports science or strength and conditioning practice. So I'd say that the biggest innovation has been the introduction of sports science. And you're seeing now that these champions across the Boxing Science React series, people like Bivol, Canelo, Gervonta Davis, Terence Crawford, they're all partaking in some form of strength conditioning and sports science. Now, you wouldn't have seen that 10 or 15 years ago. People like Mayweather and Pacquiao, they were doing more old school conditioning methods, such as like long road runs. They'd be doing hundreds of sit-ups, press-ups, doing some weights, but not going with a sports science approach. Now you're seeing all these champions now that are partaking in some sort of sports science and strength conditioning. It's not all the same. It's not one size fits all approach. They all got their different approaches. And this is what's made the Boxing Science React series so interesting for me to analyze, and also interesting to you as the viewers as well, to have a look at how they are preparing physically and mentally. You know, there's been an argument for many, many years about old school fighters not doing strength and conditioning and how they've been successful. Well, now the new school champions, all the best boxers in the world, are now doing strength and conditioning and some sort of sports science to approach their fights to become the best version of themselves, so getting peak physical condition ready for battle. The second biggest innovation, and this is not particularly training, but I can feed it into it, and it actually feeds into the first thing in terms of the champions using strength and conditioning, is social media. Boxers sharing more about their training now than ever before. Instagram reel, a YouTube video or a clip on Twitter that they're sharing. Now they're sharing their training methods with thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, maybe even millions of fans across the world. And this is having an effect going down the chain from the champions through to grassroots. One of the biggest things in terms of UK strength and conditioning, Anthony Joshua. Anthony Joshua obviously is pinnacle in terms of being heavyweight world champion, in terms of his rise to fame as well, how he transferred to the casual audience as well. Huge star, huge social media presence. And he's shared a lot about his training in terms of strength and conditioning. Young kids coming through, looking at somebody at the top of the sport, somebody who they aspire to, doing strength and conditioning, they now feel like they can do it. And it's not only Anthony Joshua, loads of different UK fighters, obviously world fighters as well, that are using strength and conditioning. And this whole filters down to the grassroots to go, right, that's what I need to do to get the best out of myself. Yeah, strength and conditioning, massive innovation, and sports science, a massive innovation to help improve boxing. But then how does that get through to the grassroots? How does that get through to amateur boxing and aspiring professionals? And that's through social media. And the third biggest innovation, and this probably links into the others, is nutrition. So nutrition, helping boxers make weight safely and more effectively. There's loads more research now that's showing that crash dieting, intense dehydration methods are actually quite harmful for fighters. There's a lot more education around how to make weight for fights, not only in boxing, but also across combat sports, mixed martial arts particularly, where you're seeing a lot of dangerous methods, a lot of people that are drained on the scales through intense weight cuts, going on long road runs to try and get off the weight. Now, nutrition is helping athletes fuel better during their training, eat more across a training camp to help them reduce that body weight, a decent progress, a safe progress, and then doing acute manipulations around glycogen, around fiber, around water loading and everything like that. So athletes aren't just going straight from crash dieting, reducing their energy intake, increasing their training volume, and then also reducing their water intake and trying to lose too much through dehydration and sweating. So we're seeing athletes being a lot safer when making weight and then refueling effectively. So obviously they're going to be a lot bigger and a lot safer in the ring and being able to perform at a higher intensity. And you can only look at like the fighters now in terms of like how big athletes are for the weight, whether that's a light heavyweight or whether it's a flyweight or featherweight. Athletes are looking better on the scales. They're not as depleted, and also they're a lot bigger for the weight category as well. And that's just showing how nutrition is having an impact on boxing as a sport. My answer to the three biggest innovations, there's lots of other stuff, lots more technology that's coming out in terms of testing and monitoring to help improve performance. Still a long way to go, but it's quite interesting, that question, over the last 30 years, but actually there's been a lot of progress in just 10 years. There's actually an article that comes out every 10 years in football. It's around about the second year of the decade, so 2022, 2012, 2002, and it reviews kind of the progress that's been made in that sport in the last 10 years. And when it actually came out in 2022, myself and Alan Ruddock discussed it, and we're just like, well, what's changed in boxing in the last 10 years? It'd be absolutely massive compared to what it was in 2012. And there's a lot of good things to think about that. You've got GB Boxing that is integrating strength and conditioning with their boxers that are then going into professionals. You've got your top level professionals that are sharing their training processes and posting it on social media. And obviously people like us that are sharing it on social media as well. But there's lots of different people that are sharing the good message around sports science, strength and conditioning in boxing. So a lot of big changes in the past 10 years. Boxing Science is glad to be part of it. And also we're very motivated to make that even better over the next 10 years. Quick interruption. If you're a keen follower of Boxing Science, you will know that we're very data driven, whether that's our sports science research, our strength and conditioning practices, or nutritional strategies. We also take this approach into our content creation. That's why we've been developing content that's been engaging, that's helped grow the Boxing Science YouTube channel. And with this analysis in our YouTube engagement, we've actually found out an interesting figure that only 27% of people that watch our videos actually are subscribed to the Boxing Science YouTube channel. That means that a massive 73% of people that watch these videos aren't currently subscribed. We're actually aiming for the Boxing YouTube channel to hit 100,000 subscribers. We want a nice silver plaque in this bookshelf here, and it will mean the world to us, and will also support the growth of the channel to bring you even bigger and better content. So if you're one of them 73%, if I can ask a quick favor, if you can hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any future content, and also we'll guarantee better content in the future. Next question, I'd like to hear your opinions on sports massages, maybe even the best method, like various types of massage or infrared heating pads for sore muscles. I'm not going to go on a Roy Keane style rant that I did on the overlap just the other week. I'm going to say about sports massages, I think that it's important, but it's also what athletes tend to go towards is a quick fix, something that will make them feel better in a very short window, instead of looking at how they are actually managing their training load and recovery process. So sports massages, I think that are really beneficial, but it's not the go-to. Make yourself sore, get a sports massage. If you're getting so sore that you're needing sports massage to really recover, you need to start managing your training loads a little bit better. So that is making sure you're having 2 heavy days, light day, 2 heavy days, then having good rest at the weekend. manipulating your training loads over a training phase. You have 3 hard weeks and then you drop and have a deload, and then you do 3 hard weeks, drop and have a deload. Then also looking at the type of exercises that you're doing. If you're doing something for high volumes or high intensity that's making you sore, maybe you need to look to tweak your program. Also looking at like kind of recovery methods such as like ice bath, contrast bathing, using heat therapy such as like infrared sauna or doing hot baths. That would be really good to help reduce muscle soreness. This is going to help you recover better, to help you perform better, but also it's going to save you some money as well, because obviously sports massages can be quite expensive if you're looking to do that as your key recovery tool. I'd say a sports massage would be good every other week or every week if you've got the budget, but only once a week. If you don't have the budget for a sports massage to do it every other week or maybe like do it once a month, you can do a range of self-myofascial release techniques such as the massage gun and also using foam rollers as well. Generally, you can help reduce tightness as well through doing more mobility exercises as well. Why is it in some boxing bouts I feel fit and energized, and some boxing bouts I feel tired and fatigued? Because I stick to the same workout regime for every bout. That's quite interesting. You think that every time that you're preparing for a bout in the same way, you're expecting the same outcome. There's something called training monotony, and training monotony is where you're exposed to the same stimulus all the time or same loading every time. And this can stagnate your performance and also can create fatigue. So this means that you have to change some stuff within your training, whether that's changing your periodized plan, changing the way that you taper, changing the exercises that you use going into a fight. Not having to change everything in terms of like, right, I'm going to totally change everything that's working for me. It's doing the same kind of exercises, same kind of routine, but making them tweaks. So for example, at Boxing Science, no training camp looks the same. Whether you're training for 4-rounder, 6-rounder fights, or whether you're fighting for a world title fight. We're always looking for different ways to help stimulate an athlete and stimulate adaptation. So we look at kind of what progress that we made from the last training camp and then build that on top of that and looking at how we can improve this athlete even further. So not just repeating the same process all the time, because you're not going to be stimulating the athlete, not going to be stimulating adaptation. And also you're going to be creating a lot of training monotony where you end up going to be overtraining, overreaching, creating fatigue. And this is probably why you're seeing some performances that are good because whatever's doing is working for you, but why you end up seeing some performances not being as good. So look to try and change it up a little bit, still have that same structure, still have the same kind of training techniques that you're using, but try and manipulate it to make sure that you're reducing that training monotony and help improve your performance. Next question, what body parts should I be training in a boxing full body S&C workout? I already do 2 days a week of bodybuilding style training, so looking for boxing specific exercises to do on separate days. As a general rule of thumb, how we split up our training, we follow the 6 pillars of strength, where we're looking to do hinge or squat exercises. So a hinge exercise would be like a deadlift variation, whether that's trap bar, sumo deadlift, rack Romanian deadlift, kettlebell deadlift. On the other day, we've got a squat exercise. So that could be a goblet squat, a landmine squat to press, or box squat. Then we've got our press and pull exercises. So a pressing exercise can either be a horizontal, which is something like a dumbbell chest press or rack press, or that can be a vertical press, which is something like a dumbbell shoulder press, but more than likely, because boxers are quite tight in their overhead range, likely to do like landmine variations, so like half kneeling landmine press or a standing landmine press. Again, we split this between session 1 and session 2. We paired this up as a superset with a pulling exercise. Again, this is categorized into horizontal pulling, such as a prone row or TRX row, or vertical pulling exercise, which is something like a neutral grip pull-up or a single arm cable pull down. Then we've got a single leg exercise. Again, this is split up into 2 categories. On the first session, we'll do a knee dominant single leg exercise. This is something like a lunge, a split squat, offset reverse lunge, a dumbbell step up. And then On the other session, we've got a hinge exercise. Could do with like a single leg Romanian deadlift here, but more often than not, we're looking to try and develop the glutes in this. So some sort of single leg hip thrust, whether that's using the bands, using just body weight only, doing a hip thrust march, or doing an isometric single leg hip thrust. And then we finish each workout with a core finisher. So we'll do 2 to 3 different exercises targeting the 4 pillars of core training. That is anti-extension, anti-lateral flexion, anti-rotation, and hip flexion with neutral spine. And we try and fit in these 4 pillars to be hit at least once or twice over a training week. So there we have it. That's the full kind of training plan for session 1 and session 2. Using the 6 pillars of strength training. We start off each training session with an extended warm-up where we do our plyometrics. So we'll do a jumping style exercise. That's something like a box jump, altitude landing, a counter movement jump, repeated counter movement jump. We'll do something like that to improve lower body explosiveness. We'll then do a single leg lateral movement exercise, such as like an ice skater, and different variations around this, whether it's an ice skater, just body weight, with a medicine ball, with a band, and then we link that up into punch-specific action. Depending on what stage of training camp they're in, or what particular area that they need to work on in terms of their punch power, we work on like med ball punches, range different med ball punches, and a range different landmine variations. And also we do our isometric holds as well. So that's like a full plan. We start with the extended warm-up, we work through the 6 pillars, we split up the pillars effectively over 2 training sessions. We'll finish off with a bit of core. So fantastic question here from Dennis C3904. Any suggestions for amateur boxers how to recover, refuel and manage competing in back-to-back fights over 2 to 3 days in a tournament setting? My particular expertise would be around training and around recovery instead of refueling. For refueling, obviously we've got our performance nutritionist Lee Rickards that can provide more information. But generally, in terms of like kind of refuel, you're wanting to keep foods quite light, something that doesn't sit in your gut for too long. So you're wanting to keep the carbohydrates high, but wanting to keep the fiber intake low. So you've got to be really particular about some of the foods that you're having. Stuff like rice puddings, pasta, like fruits such as like dried mango, bananas, stuff like that that are going to be able to be fast absorbing, but also not going to be sitting in your gut for too long. If you want to find out more information about this, you can contact Lee Rickards at boxingscience_nutrition. But also, we've just brought out our brand new amateur nutrition program, which is particularly looking at youth athletes, but can also be transferred into amateur boxers, like kind of recovering. I'd be looking to do like mobility, sports massage, if you've got access to that. If you haven't got access to that, stuff like using the massage gun to just increase circulation, going out for like walks and stuff like that, not just kind of just sitting down. You want to be keeping your body moving, doing like active recovery in terms of like mobility, doing some dynamic and also static stretching to just keep that body moving, to not be cramping up, seizing up in between bouts. A great tool would be to do some contrast therapy between hot showers and cold showers. So you'll be looking to do like 3 to 5 minutes on with 1 minute cool water. It might be a little bit of a shock to the system if you haven't done cold showers before. Everything is all around about blood circulation, just getting that heart pumping passively instead of actively. You're not wanting to be doing too much exercise. You know, the most exercise that you want to be doing is a walk or a mobility routine, and then also getting blood circulation firing, doing the sports massage, doing massage gun, and doing the contrast therapy as well. That's probably the best advice that I could give you in between bouts. It's a hard task to do bouts back to back for 2 to 3 days. It's going to be tougher going through, but also the main thing is about recovering and refueling is to just make sure that you're not doing an intense weight cut going into the bout, because if you're constantly making weight, refueling and having to potentially make weight again, that's really going to affect your performance and your energy levels going through towards the final. And obviously, as each bout goes along, the more important the bouts are, the harder that the bouts become as well. It doesn't only just happen in this small block here, but also what's happening going into competition. That's really important as well. So making sure that you're on weight, not have to make weight every single time, not having to cut weight every single time to make championship weight. So then you can fuel better fuel your recovery better and also fuel your performance. Does the strength conditioning program have to be related to the boxer's style, like counterpuncher focusing on explosiveness and pressure fighter focusing on stamina and strength? A really interesting question, and it's not particularly a total black and white answer whether we would look to try and work towards an athlete's style, or no, we'd keep everything general. It all depends on the type of athlete that you have, strengths, the areas for improvement, the time that you have with them as well. From a general rule of thumb, what we're trying to do with boxers is just make them into the best possible athlete that they can be. One of the best all-round athletes that I ever had on the program is someone like Cal Brook, who was just a solid 8 and 9 out of 10 in every single department, whether that's his strength, his speed, his fitness, his high-intensity fitness, his explosiveness, across the board, 8 or 9 out of 10. I'd similar with people like Jordan Gill, Laverne Richards, Fabio Wardley, all different fighting styles, but generally as them as an athlete, they're about 8 or 9 out of 10 across the board. And that's kind of what we're wanting to create with boxers, because there'll be times where you might have to fight a little bit different. There'll be times where you might have to change your style to meet a different opponent. And if we've been training in one certain way all the time, then it's going to be pretty hard to change in a short amount of time. Build a wide range of skills from their athletic potential, from their physiological makeup. We're wanting them to be high-intensity athletes, being able to deal with high-intensity actions repeatedly over a long amount of time. And then this can transfer that into whatever their style wants to be. If there's particularly a shot that they need to work on, some tactics that they need to work on in a fight, then I'll be working on particular exercises that suit that style. Being in big fights with Fabio Wardley recently, we're doing exercises that actually meet like kind of some of the tactics that are going into that fight. Obviously, this is well drilled with the boxing team, but if I can think of a physical exercise that can help improve that, then I'm going to start implementing that into the program. And that's a particular tactic for a particular opponent, but you can think about some of the stuff that you might need to work on in the gym. So I've had athletes that might say, oh, I'm really struggling with my hook. Okay, so then I'm looking at different exercises that can help improve the hook, whether that's something around their shoulder, whether that's something in terms of rotational strength and power, whether that's something to do with the stability through that lower body. There's a range of different exercises that can contribute towards the hook. It's not particularly, I'm going to be training you like this because you're a counter puncher, or training you because you're a high volume pressure fighter. I'll be looking at, right, what do you need to improve on? How do you look at the full scale in terms of like your athletic potential? What window of opportunity do we have? Are you going towards a world title fight? If you're going towards a world title fight where we're literally wanting to change our strength into super strength and not really wanting to be working on your weak points. The great example would be when we worked with Joe Joyce ahead of the Joseph Parker fight. We were just like, right, we're just wanting to increase your work rate as much as we can. We could have spent like a lot of time trying to work on speed and power and explosiveness, but we were just like, right, we're going to really focus on that stamina. That stamina is your strong point. We're going to make that strength into super strength. And the punch outputs that I put in that fight was unbelievable. So that was a very, very short window of opportunity in an 8 to 10 week training camp with him. Whereas like somebody like in the gym now, we've got Dan Toward, we've got Stephen Cairns, we've got Ellis Price, Hopi Price. These are all athletes that are at the start of their careers. So then we can try and improve them into the best possible athlete that they can be in every single department. Don't need to really focus on super strengths now because we've got the time to build up them areas for improvement. Them athletes at the very top level, probably some tweaks to just take advantage of what they're already good at. Like I said, it's not a black and white answer. It's a strength and conditioning cop-out where we say it depends on everything. But yeah, hopefully that's giving you a little bit of insight to how we look at specific scenarios with different fighters. How far off should your training weight be from fight weight? And how do you determine what weight category you should be in? All depends on how far you were away from a fight. So if you're only 4 weeks out from a fight, we expect you to be anywhere around 6 or 7% away from your fighting weight. If you're 10 weeks away, we're likely to want you between 10 and 12%. And this all depends on whether you're a professional fighter that has a day before weigh-in, if you're a professional fighter with a day off the weigh-in, or an amateur boxer that is going into a single bout or multi-bout competition. The amateur boxers want to be closer to the weight, maybe sub 10%, 10 weeks out, than a professional boxer that can have that kind of leeway there. But yeah, it all depends on that kind of what weight category you want to be in. So let's say you're 15% away from your fight weight, which isn't a great position to be in. If you're only 5 weeks out from a fight, then that does actually change what your weight category is. If you're over 12 weeks out from a fight, then that means that you have a sharp weight descent to do, and your training and nutrition should be centered around trying to lose that weight safely and effectively and quite quickly as well. Don't be making that decision around what weight category they should be. If you're over 15% above your weight category at the moment, it all depends how many weeks you are away from a fight. What's really important about this, if you are like 10 or 15%, is to get a body composition analysis. You can do this most effectively with skin fold calipers. Just make sure that person is qualified to do so. I think it's ISAC accreditation. They will be able to assess you and be able to give you your body fat readings and your lean muscle mass. With this lean muscle mass, for amateur boxers, you want to be between 1 to 2 kilos below your target weight. If you're a professional fighter, this wants to be at your target weight. Let's talk about like a featherweight boxer. So featherweight boxer, 57 kilos. If an athlete is 10, 15% above their body weight, the lean muscle mass is 59 kilos, they might want to be moving up a weight. In fact, they actually do want to move up a weight and go super featherweight, 59 kilos. If they are 56, 57 kilos, then that shows that the weight is doable, but it needs a long time to be able to make that weight. This body composition analysis is really important to make them decisions around what weight category that it should be. It shouldn't be whether you're 10, 15% away from your fight weight, because this can be achieved with a longer amount of time. But also you need to make sure that your lean muscle mass has a relationship with your competition weight. Okay guys, so that's the end of this week's episode of the Boxing Science Podcast. Thank you very much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed this episode and taken a lot away. If you've sent in one of your questions, I've answered it. Let me know in the comments how I've answered it, whether it's a good answer or whether you're wanting to find out a little bit more. If you're not subscribed yet, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any future content, and also support the growth of the channel. So thank you very much for watching. Hopefully see you on the next episode of the Boxing Science Podcast.